What's going on, Browns fans? Welcome into the Cleveland Browns Report by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here with Browns draft winners and losers, right? As we continue to come up with fun segments after the NFL draft, because there's about a good week or so when the draft wraps up of still good content coming out. So I thought we could take a look at some of the winners and losers for Cleveland with a bit of an asterisk because, it's definitely way too early and premature to say this. But sports fans, what do we love in the offseason? Winners and losers and grades. So we already did grades, so now let's do some winners and losers. Now, first things first, let's remind ourselves what the Browns did in the draft. I'm never going to get tired of looking at this because as a sports fan, I'm sure like yourself watching, it's fun to just look at lists and look at guys and look at schools and positions and go, that's a good group of guys right there. This is a good draft haul for the Browns. So Cedric Tillman, Siaki Ika, right? Some early picks right there. DeJuan Jones might want to be an NBA player and not an NFL player. At pick 111, I'll take the chance. Plus, dude knows ball. Isaiah McGuire, defensive end. That's going to be a nice rotational piece for the Browns this year, and so on and so forth with the rest of their selections. Now, before we look at some of the winners and losers that I've got, we got a whole bunch of new subscribers during the draft, 412 to be exact as I crunch the numbers. So if you have not turned your notifications on to all of our new subscribers, go ahead and do so. Anytime news comes out or breaking rumors, things like that, you won't want to miss it. So hit the notification bell icon and select it to all. Getting into our first winner, though, I'm going to go with Jed Wills as one of the winners for the Browns when the draft is all said and done here, right? So the Browns, of course, picked up his fifth-year option, which makes him a bit of a winner by itself, but they also didn't really draft a clear replacement. Maybe they do view DeJuan Jones as someone who could be a left tackle, but I think they like him at right tackle or swing tackle. I don't think that pick also had a second motive of, plus he could be the left tackle for Jed Wills if he is not going to get a second contract from us. But a big reason why he's a winner is he gets a chance to prove himself with an extra season on the books right now once his fifth-year option was picked up. Last year, it wasn't phenomenal for him. PFF ranked him as 59 out of 84. Overall grade, 62.9. We know he's a much better pass blocker than run blocker, and maybe that's why the Browns feel like he could be a good left tackle for them, because with Deshaun Watson, I don't think they're going to be throwing the ball an excessive amount more than they were previously under the, Baker Mayfield-led offenses, but I do think there's going to be an uptick in the amount of pass attempts per game with Watson now under center. So I want you guys to predict this for me. Will Jedrick Wills get a second contract? Do you think he's on a path to get a second deal from the Browns and be their left tackle for, 6, 7, 8 years? Just give me a simple yes or no in the comments section. My stance is a second straight season of a healthy Jed Wills could bring a breakout season for him. Unfortunately, his first 2 seasons in the NFL, he didn't have an absolute clean bill of health. The ankle injury sort of nagged him on and off. Hopefully that's all behind him now, and he can build off of last year, and he can look like maybe not the 10th overall pick in the draft, but at least a first-round type tackle from the draft. So I'm going to be optimistic. I'm not getting drunk on Jed Wills as the guy long-term because I have seen a lot of things that concern me, but I do believe that a second straight year of hopefully a, absolute injury-free season, or at least close as you can get to that in the NFL, could bring a turnaround for the left tackle. All right, my next winner/loser here is a loser, and it's the wide receivers. I'm not going to pick on one specifically, but Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones are sort of the losers-esque. The reason is that when the Browns selected Cedric Tillman with their first selection, there is definitely maybe a plan in place of, Cooper and DPJ together might not be here for the next 3 to 4 seasons, right? At least the next 2024, I can't guarantee both guys being here. With DPJ entering a contract season, maybe Cedric Tillman was picked for a combination of, hey, he's the best player available at 74, did not expect to see him there. We have to take talent in round 3, not draft for needs. And it could be a bit of like a win-win situation because, well, maybe we don't have to extend DPJ. or maybe we can hold on or we can move on from Amari Cooper in 2024. When I look at Cleveland's wide receiver room, I'm not going to have Tillman as a top 4 wide receiver just yet. I got to actually see him, earn that through preseason and training camp. But I do think that Cedric Tillman's going to step in here, and he's probably he's definitely stealing someone's roster spot. If I had to project which wide receivers make the roster, guys, I think it's already set in stone. I don't know how much is up for grabs, barring any injuries, right? Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, Cedric Tillman, Marquise Goodwin, some people might think is a bubble guy. They threw a decent amount of guaranteed money his way. I think the Browns want to see him on their roster. David Bell, your 3rd-round pick last year, he is definitely a roster lock. So, boom. Unless Cleveland wants to roll with 7 wide receivers, or unless one of these guys gets banged up in preseason, I think your wide receiver room is set in stone, and maybe they try and squeeze Jakeem Grant on if he looks good coming off an Achilles for special teams. But Schwartz, Harley, Michael Woods might be thankful. That sounds mean, but if he wasn't an IR guy, I don't know if there's a roster spot for him after selecting Cedric Tillman. Now, another reason why the wide receivers are losers outside of the roster bubble guys, Amari Cooper. If you fast forward to next offseason, pre-June 1st, if they were to release him, well, the 2024 cap hit is a pretty big one, $23.7 million. The cap savings is $12.4, $11.3 million dead cap hit. But again, this could be a pick that checks 2 boxes for the Browns, right? They get best player available in round 3. And if they don't want a $23 million cap hit in 2024 and they want to move on from Amari Cooper, boom, they've already drafted his replacement and they don't have to do that in next year's draft. Now, if they want to save some more money, speaking of Cooper, after June 1st, if they were to release him, still a big $23.7 million cap hit, but the cap savings balloons up to $20 million. So Amari Cooper, I think, is in a weird spot right now. If he balls out next year, right? If he has a better season than he did last year, if he's a 1,200 yards, 10 touchdown type receiver, I don't think the Browns are going to move on from him. They'll probably slap some more void years on and kick the can down the road. But if Amari Cooper begins to regress or slow down a little bit, that's going to be great ammunition for the Browns justifying moving on from him and not having a $23.7 million cap hit. Moving on to our next winner here. I'm going to go with the linebackers in general. Big win for the linebacker room as the Browns did not add any premier draft picks from a linebacker standpoint during this draft class, okay? The Browns had 8 picks going in. I thought they would for sure use one on a linebacker. Instead, they don't. And the linebacker room, outside of some nice UDFA signings, is pretty much the same, right? JOK, Walker, and Taki might have been sitting on their couch watching the draft thinking, are they going to take a linebacker, and is he going to replace me, and is he going to start at least over me to begin the year because I'm coming off an injury? Not the case here. So linebackers got the win during the draft for sure. The Browns brass clearly has a lot of faith and trust in JOK, Anthony Walker, and Taki all starting the year healthy, or at least being healthy for 2024. This is Andrew Berry's gamble this year, right? Last year, it was on the defensive tackles where he sort of skimmed out and he thought, well, hopefully they can just be average, and with Clowney and Garrett, they can boost them up. This year, he invested in the defensive tackles in free agency and the draft with premier signings and early draft picks. He's not doing that with the linebacker core this year, right? He brought back Taki and Walker on cheapish deals, did not draft a linebacker. This is the one vulnerable spot for the Browns, and Andrew Berry is hoping that everyone stays healthy because beneath the ice, it's very thin, and it's going to be a quick plunge if you start to see more IR guys pop up. Now, I don't think you should rule out a free agent acquisition at the linebacker position, right? Let's say OTAs rolls around and the guys are in Berea and the trainers are getting a better look at Walker and Taki, and they're letting Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski know, hey, I don't know if he's going to be ready week 1. And then training camp rolls around and there's a decent chance these guys start on the PUP list, and it's now been a week or two and there's not a lot of glimmer of hope that they're going to be ready for the first week of the season. maybe the Browns go to the free agent market and add a veteran linebacker. So just kind of file that away for later. If you don't see a good early diagnosis for Walker and Taki suiting up early in the season, they might be looking to add a veteran linebacker. By the way, before we get to our next winner/loser, if you enjoyed today's show, share it on social media. We're trying to grow this channel. I know so many of you guys already do a great job talking to you, Joshua Miller, about sharing our content and tagging me on Twitter. My handle's right there at the bottom of the screen, Matthew Petey. So if you like the content you're watching and you want to help support the channel, liking, subscribing, commenting, all that stuff is fantastic, but sharing definitely goes the extra mile. So appreciate all of you that send our videos to other Browns fans or post it on social media for us. My next loser is the AFC North. I'm putting the rest of the division on notice because the Browns came into this draft without a first, without a second, right? Steelers had a first and a second. Steelers had 2 seconds. The Bengals had a first and a second. And the Ravens had a first and a third, but the Browns were the only team not selecting in the first 31 picks. And despite that, they came out pretty well from this draft class, which I don't think is going over well in Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Baltimore. The Athletic did their draft rankings, and they ranked Cleveland 10th. For the Browns to finish top 10 and not to pick until 74, that's a big win for Andrew Berry and company, right? You're not picking until 74. There were only one other team that picked after you. The Niners didn't pick until like 98. You were the second to last team, if I remember correctly, to pick. And so for that to be top 10, that's a big win for Cleveland. But it wasn't just the Athletic that thought they had a really good draft. Mel Kiper, he was pretty soft. He gave out draft rank grades, and he just gave the entire division a B+, which I disagree with. Like, I think the Steelers had a better draft than the Browns. They got better players, but for what the Browns had to work with, the Browns did an excellent job, right? They did not have a lot of ammunition, and they made each shot count. PFF's draft grades, by the way, it wasn't just those 2 outlets that thought Cleveland fared well. They gave the Browns an A grade. Steelers gave them an A+. I think that's fair. The Bengals got an A. The Ravens got a B. Like, Baltimore, I think, got a very good receiver in Zay Flowers. They drafted their next Patrick Queen, except he's not as good as Patrick Queen, probably. But again, the roses and the flowers continue to come for the Browns. Look at CBS Sports' draft grades. Browns get a B, tied with the Ravens, ahead of the Bengals. So for Cleveland to finish second in the AFC North draft grades, when they didn't even pick until 74, that's a big win for Cleveland. So for the Browns to have no first and no second rounder and come away with great talent overall, like best player available approach, and future starters in Cedric Tillman and Luke Whippler and DeJuan Jones and Cam Mitchell, who's even a starter this year probably in the nickel, that's a win for the Browns. Like, I am sure the rest of the AFC North was hoping, hey, with the Browns loading up in trades and free agency, we need them to suck in this draft, right? We cannot let them walk away with a good draft haul after what they did in the trade market and free agency. And the Browns said, hold my beer, we're going to draft better than the Bengals and the Ravens did, and we did not even have a first or a second round pick. Like, that is, once again, a huge win for Cleveland. So now I want everyone to maybe go back and regrade the Browns draft. Now that we've seen a lot of other opinions out there on how all 32 teams fared, does it change your mind? It changes my mind. I was at a B to B- for the Browns, which I felt fair without a first or second round pick. But the more I kind of read, the more drunk I get on some of these picks, it'd be all the way to a B+. I mean, the Browns got some awesome talent and did not pick until 74. My final winner is Greg Newsome. He's a winner for a couple of reasons. One, his old college buddy got drafted by the Browns. Two, he is done playing in the nickel position, right? Oh, so let's get some more background information here, right? Like I said, they drafted his old Northwestern teammate Cam Mitchell in round 5, and it appears to be the new nickel guy. Cam Mitchell will step in and take over from Greg Newsome in that spot, and Greg Newsome can go back to being an outside corner. So I am sure Newsome is thrilled to be freed from a role that he did not thrive in last season. Let's be honest, I'm sure he would agree. And he goes back to where he played a lot better, in my opinion. His rookie season, 9 pass breakups, only gave up 2 touchdowns. But last year, 6 pass breakups. The PFF grade might have gone up a tick, but Greg Newsome did not look like a good fit in that slot position for the Cleveland Browns. And Cam Mitchell now, he steps into that role. 5'11", $191, 2-year starter in Evanston. In 2022, he's an honorable mention for all Big Ten team. Plus, he was the Wildcats leader in pass breakups. Now, this is going to be a new role for him. I don't want anyone thinking the Browns just drafted a slot nickel corner from college. No, he only played 10 snaps in the slot in 2022. Now, in his career for Northwestern, talk about a guy who was a low-level recruit, redshirt his rookie season, to being a 2-year starter and a mid-day 3 pick. 119 tackles, 2 interceptions is kind of the reason why he slipped in the draft process. Doesn't have great instincts or ball skills. 22 pass breakups is impressive, but he never really converted a lot of those into interceptions, maybe as he should have. So getting that down is probably the biggest area of improvement for Mitchell as he makes this adjustment to the pros. But who do you think the most underrated draft pick was for the Browns? Was it Cam Mitchell? Luke Whippler is looking pretty good. If Ethan Posick is maybe going to, I should say regress, but he signed a 3-year contract. We always know, like, 5-year contracts or 3-year contracts, 4-year contracts or 2-year contracts, and 3-year contracts are 2-year contracts. So maybe they move on from Posick if they want to save some money, and Whippler can step in and be the future starting center down the line. I do have some honorary winners, by the way, as well. Nick Chubb, I'm going to include. Cleveland did not draft a running back. Teams can always draft a running back, to be a starter in their rookie season. That's not uncommon. But Chubb has to feel a little bit better that they did not clearly go out and try and find a replacement. Deshaun Watson, he did an awesome interview with Chops before the draft started, and he asked him, like, hey, would you want to get a wide receiver? Like, what's your approach? And he was pretty laissez-faire about the whole thing, but I'm sure he's happy that the Browns got another wide receiver, and they drafted another swing tackle to try and keep him healthy. Jim Schwartz, looks like he got to handpick his guys. Ika and Isaiah McGuire, those are going to be 2 great Jim Schwartz molds for him to work on their rookie seasons. And Grant Delpit was someone who might have had a replacement drafted as he enters a contract season, which would have put him not on the hot seat, but more replaceable after the season was over. Instead, they do not draft a safety, so Delpit's seat maybe cools down a little bit without someone breathing over his neck and shoulders. That is it on today's show. If you enjoyed today's Cleveland Browns report, follow me on Twitter at Matthew Petey. I'm always talking Brownies over there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll see everyone later.